Hey y'all, it's me, Detective Drizzleboy. So today I have been doing an investigation on this pop star named Chappell Roan. So she's somebody who I'm not too familiar with. I think she makes like kind of like country, kind of like kids music. So I don't really listen to country music, and I'm not a kid. So I mostly listen to like pop and rap and R&B. Those are kind of the genres I like the most. So to me, it's like I kind of really skip over these kind of artists. But there has been a big beef between her and the 11-year-old daughter of Jorginho Frello. And so to me, it is like I really want to get the truth out. And my last video is, bordering on parody, as unfortunately I ran with a narrative that is incorrect. And I will state it here because I'm about the truth. I'm not here to sit here and Chappell Roan defend. I'm not going to defend her, but I'm also not going to lie on this woman because there is a high possibility that she had nothing involved with what happened. This is my correctional statement. There was a post that was being shared as factual that was actually incorrect. There's multiple news sources running with it, and I had ran with one of the sources. So the original post came from a parody account, and multiple sources had picked it up. So now that we know that that is in fact parody, I just want to say my original video, let's look at that through the lens that that parody isn't necessarily real, but that might be the thought process of an insane crazy bitch who hates children, or maybe not hates children but felt really offended in the moment of this child and felt the need to send a security guard, because there are multiple angles of this entire investigation. Even though that statement is fake, I think that there's still potential that Chappell Roan went crazy and actually sent that security guard. Now, do I think that's the most realistic? No, I actually think that's one of the lower likely options. I actually think it's more likely that someone a part of her team sent the security guard, that there's a potential that someone felt offended on her behalf. But again, we can only speculate. We cannot look into the room of what happened during and right before and right after the events that occurred. We would need some sort of video footage or a testimony from the security guard. Now, one thing about testimonies, the security guard could easily lie. The security guard could be paid off in a way that he throws himself under the bus. He won't be able to work again, but you know what? Whatever label Chappell Roan's under will make sure that he stays fed. So at the end of the day, it's really hard to know whether or not, Chappell Roan sent the officer, if another person part of her team sent the security guard. The security guard personally felt offended on her behalf. But honestly, to me, I just think it's a little bit unrealistic that a security guard saw a child walk past the table and just snapped. Like, I do not believe that this security guard, who apparently, according to Chappell Roan, is not a part of her team, felt so offended on her behalf without even asking anyone a part of her team, hey, that child that came over here, I need to make sure I go follow them to their table and threaten to, potentially kick them out, or, in a sense, report them to the hotel and potentially get police involvement. I think the fishiest part about this is during Chappell Roan's statement, she says that the security guard is not a part of her team. So I think that there is some truth to this, but I also think that this is a little bit of a front. So, her security detail could be people contracted specifically for the Lollapalooza event. Just because this is not a long time security guard doesn't mean that she's not responsible for the actions that her team dictates. And this is where the statement from the mother comes in. The mother posted a 6-minute statement where I feel like she really eloquently described the very drastic situation that took place at this event in a way that's factual. She does not speculate that, hey, Chappell Roan specifically was the person to send that security guard. From her perspective, all she knows is that the security guard showed up, berated her and her daughter in a way that was not only disrespectful but aggressive, and what some might say is borderline harassment. So I'm gonna play the whole clip here. If you are interested Make sure to watch. If you already seen it, go ahead and skip 6 minutes ahead. We're going to be watching this, and then I'm going to do a review of it.
Hi guys, good morning, bon dia. I wanted to say something because I'm getting so many messages about this now, and honestly I didn't realize it would get this crazy, but a lot of people ask me like what actually happened and everything else, and I know that Chappell has responded saying that it wasn't it wasn't her security and that she didn't do it. So 100% this security guard was not a security guard of the hotel. That's what I can say. He looks after artists, so I don't know if it was her personal security guard, but he was with her, so that is all I know. Did she send him to do it? Again, I don't know. Look, I would like to hope not, but at the same time, I think that you have a responsibility when you are a celebrity to make sure, I guess, that the people that work for you and that act on your behalf are acting on your behalf. So would he do that if he didn't have her authority to do so? I don't know. If he does, then obviously that's a big problem, because then he's representing her in a way that she doesn't want to be represented. So I think that's really important for her to notice and realize that's not correct. What happened, exactly as she said, she didn't notice anything or anyone because as my husband said, nothing happened. Literally, we were staying in the same hotel, we were at breakfast, and we noticed a girl walk past with long red hair, very curly, and I said to my daughter, "Oh, do you think that's Chappell Roan?" And she looked and she said, "Oh my God, Mum, do you think it's her?" And so she said, "I'm going to go and have a look outside." And she was sat just outside in the garden area, which we were also free to go into. The door was open. And so I went back to the table to sit and eat, and my daughter walked through the door. She didn't have her phone. She didn't try to take a picture. She didn't approach her. She literally didn't do anything. She just looked at her and smiled. And she came back and she actually said to me, "Mum, I don't know if it's her." Because obviously she looks like, with her costumes and everything, she looks a little bit different. So my daughter said, "Oh my gosh, I'm not sure if it was her. I think it was her, Mum. It really, really looks like her, but I don't know. Maybe it's her sister." She said, "Maybe it's her sister." And I said, "Oh, I don't know, darling." And that was it. We continued our breakfast. And from that, then came the security guard, who, as my husband said, had a very aggressive tone. And I feel like if she did not send him, even if she did send him or she didn't send him, I don't know. For me, I feel like it really overstepped a boundary, because he is quite intimidating. He is very large. So for him to come over to a table with just a woman and her daughter eating breakfast, to kind of like berate and scold us and say that he was going to complain and tell me that I should be teaching my daughter to be better and that she's badly educated and we should respect people's privacy and we should not harass people and all of these other things. And I did try and explain to him the situation, that she's a child and she was just very excited to see her an artist and singer that she admires, and can he not understand that was all she was doing. And I explained to him also that my husband is also very well known, and that she's very used to being around people that are well known, and she would never cross someone's boundaries or overstep a mark. She very much knows the limits, not to ever be rude or make anyone feel. She understands very well. And I tried to explain this to him, and he just kept saying, "Well, if that's the case, then you should know better. You should know how it is. You should know how it is. So you should teach her to be better. You shouldn't allow her to be like this." And I was shocked. And I did actually say to him at the time, I said, "Well, if this is the case that she doesn't even want people to look at her, she is very welcome to eat breakfast in her room, because this here is a public area and I am a paying guest as well as her. So if I want to walk past someone's table and look at them, I have every right to do so. I am not approaching her. I'm not doing anything to make her feel intimidated or nothing. Like, it's an 11-year-old child. So yes, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this now, because it's getting a bit crazy. But lots of people are sending me messages like, is this true, is this true, is this true? And then lots of messages now about, obviously, Chappell's message that she's put out. So I hope that she did not know, and I hope that she did not send her security over to do this. I really think that she's a very, very, very talented artist. We liked her a lot. We came all the way to Sao Paulo to watch the show. It was my daughter's birthday present. She actually asked for tickets to come for her birthday present, which was a little bit ruined because we didn't go to the show last night. But it's how it is. But yeah. Anyways, it's how it is. We'll say no more on it. That's it. I hope that maybe if it wasn't her, that she learns to not allow the people that work for her to treat people like this. And yeah, that's the end of it. My daughter's now arrived, so bye bye.
Now, a couple things that stuck out to me. For one, she said that the security officer was clearly involved with Chappell Roan's team, that the officer had nothing to do with the hotel staff. And I truly believe this, because usually hotel staff are very much so, dressed in a certain uniform. And in fact, when I've been to hotels, there are some hotels that just have police, on duty, that is not actually just like a random security officer. There would be some sort of badge or some sort of outfit that represents that, hey, this is security of the specific, the enterprise of the specific hotel. And that's why I think that my theory that, hey, this isn't necessarily a person who was part of her team long term, but maybe was contracted for this specific event. This fact does slightly clear her name in a way that it is a high potential that someone acted out in a way that she necessarily wouldn't want. That, to her, that maybe this is somebody who is just accompanying her for this event and he acted out of line. That is a big possibility. Again, we are not trying to wait whether or not that is the correct information, because we can only speculate. So for now, the options is that A, Chappell Roan sent the officer, to stop the child from, harassing her or, making a threat to the child. B, the officer, the security detail went rogue and, got up from the table after seeing that child look at Chappell Roan and smile and said, this ain't right, I gotta get up. And then gets up and follows that child, finds her table and berates her and her mother and says, hey, you're harassing my client. The last one is that Chappell Roan doesn't know that it happened, and instead, someone a part of her team quietly tells the officer, without Chappell Roan's knowledge, hey, this child just walked past us in a way that I felt like was disrespectful to my artist. This is my client. I need you to send a message to this child. Hey, you overstepped a boundary of my artist. You overstepped a boundary where I felt like she was harassing my artist. And so therefore, we should send her a threat that if you try to do that again during your stay, we will report this. So during the actual video from the mother's recounting of the event, she states that the security guard is not of the hotel's clients, that it is of Chappell Roan's team, that the security guard was walking with Chappell Roan or was seated with Chappell Roan, so therefore was part of her team. Now, even if it wasn't, again, initially part of her team, if it was a contract worker for Lollapalooza, I still feel like you are responsible for what you do. And I think that part of my issue with the apology is I felt like it did not take accountability. I don't know why an officer or a security detail would go ahead and do that to a child. So at the end of the day, I think that there's a lot more going on than we can really see. The only way we can really know, again, is if the security officer has a testimony or if video footage comes out, which I really hope it does. And one thing I have to say is that the story stayed consistent on the side of the soccer player. That, the mother, the father, both their stories align in a way where it makes sense. Chappell Roan's story has holes in it. The security line that she says about the security officer not being a part of her team, whose team was that security officer was? Why did the security officer feel the need to do that? And that's why I feel like we really need to get down to the nitty-gritty of why the fuck this happened, is because I actually do think it was someone a part of her team and maybe not her directly. But again, accountability needs to be had. Like, I have every right to believe that Chappell Roan actually sent that security officer. I think the family has every right to believe that, because why else would the security officer do that? How would the security officer feel like that little girl harassed Chappell Roan unless she said it herself? If the security officer is with her and with her team, clearly something had to happen to prompt him to go after that child. And that's why I really feel for Catherine, because, in the apology that Chappell had put out, it seemed like she tried to act like she didn't even know who this happened to, or that she was unaware of this situation entirely throughout this entire process. If the security guard that's not part of your team is acting on your behalf, wouldn't you want to find out why the fuck that guard was doing that? Wouldn't you want to put out a statement saying, hey, this guy acted in a way that was, irrational. This guy had nothing to do with my team in a way that he was just a crazy maniac that just walked up and berated a child. No, that person was part of your team. You lying. And the minimizing of the situation is really also part of the problem, that she's saying, like, she kind of worded it in a way that it's like, oh, this was like a misunderstanding. Like the kid and the guard had a misunderstanding. It's like, no, that guard tried to ruin this little girl's life. He literally went up there and verbally berated her in a way that might have caused psychological damage. This case is going to take up the rest of her life, because this is such a high profile person, Chappell Roan, that even if Chappell Roan had nothing to do with it, that this little girl is going to have, be bullied by people for this situation, that she's going to have to deal with the trauma and the fallout of such a major star going after her in this way, even if it was through the lens of, oh, just a crazy security guard acting up. I think that that's part of the problem, is that her apology is just like, oh, well, I don't know who these people are. I didn't see any of these people. My security just did something, or security that's not mine just did something, and yeah, you don't deserve that. Oh no, I'm sorry. And it's very easy for somebody to take that kind of position, that she's just brushing it off, and at the end of the day, the child and the family are going to have to deal with the fallback. Chappell Roan's really only getting heat because she's really not addressing the statement how it needs to be addressed. Not to mention, there are compilations of this girl just sicking her guard on people, like literally just like sending her guard out to harass people. So, and if I was Catherine and I was just scrolling through Twitter and I saw that those clips of Chappell Roan sticking her guard onto a fan, I think that I would have every right to believe that she does this as a regular behavior, that this is part of the crime analysis, is that, okay, she feels comfortable doing that for someone just looking at her. I'm gonna believe the victim, and I do truly believe that that guard came up to her unpromptedly harassing them. So, you don't know if Chappell Roan specifically sent that order her team, or if the person went rogue. Those are really the three options we have. And the fourth option, which I think is like absolutely lunacy, is that some rando was pretending to be an officer security detail. I disagree with that one entirely, because it seemed like she was aware that it was a security detail, but she said, "Oh, that's not my security detail." So that is a little bit telling of her side of things, that I do think it's very sus, very fishy, that I could believe that she did in fact send that security guard, considering everything that's come out. I think the mother's statement was really well worded. Some people were like, oh, she sounds like she's unsure of what she's saying. She can only speculate as well. She was not in the room with Chappell Roan when she sent her attack dog. or allegedly sent her attack dog. So at the end of the day, she can't know either. She's only guessing because her and her child were verbally harassed in a way that, honestly scarred her child. And I think that that's a very serious thing. Like, I don't think she deserved that. And now that this is public, because I think that it should be public, rightfully so, that if Chappell Roan's actually acting in this behavior, that this should be punished. So to me, it's like, okay, yeah. And I'm going to give her a benefit of the doubt that if she's not lying in her statement that she had no idea this went on, which is a very, very plausible option, that, you know what, I do believe that I think that I owe her apology myself. That in the end of the day, if she had nothing to do with this and this was just on the security guard, I am here to, analyze and figure out what actually happened. I'm Detective Drizzleboy. I'm not trying to be the villain. Chappell Roan is not my op. I just found out who she is today. But honestly, I just want to say, prayers to the daughter that who was hurt in all of this. I think that, a lot of people are putting the sympathy on Chappell Roan, which I get. If she wasn't involved, she wasn't involved. But I still think that you're accountable for your team's actions. That I felt like her apology didn't necessarily hit the marks that it needed to. And that, if her apology was, I feel like better worded, we wouldn't need to hear the mother's side. They could have reached out and talked to each other and put out a joint statement saying, hey, we figured out what happened. It just felt like the vagueness of it all just made it seem so much worse for Chappell Roan. So at the end of the day, I feel sympathy for the victim. I feel sympathy for that 11-year-old little girl who was traumatized because she spent her birthday crying when she was supposed to be seeing her favorite artist of all time, and instead she got harassed by her favorite artist of all time's security detail. Fucked up. So yeah, let's move on. Let's keep it a book. Let's keep it moving. I got things to do. This is the last day I'm going to be covering this. Hopefully, oh my god, this is such a mess. But honestly, I've been cackling at Twitter so much that I've been having fun. So you know what? Defending this little girl, making sure that the truth seeks the light. That's what I'm here for, Detective Drizzleboy. I hope y'all have a great day.